Our next performer is WILLA-award-winning writer Evelyn Searle Hess. She lives in Lorraine. She's the author of To the Woods and Building a Better Nest, which she has out in the lobby if you'd like to take a look. They've both been praised by critics and readers for their mindfulness and integrity. Her topic is In Praise of Complexity. I first met Evelyn years ago. We were both doing book signings, and I was super in awe of her. And I just adore her writing, so I'm really excited that she's here today. Evelyn. Up here. You want this closer to the screen?
Mechanics is the hardest.
It's always the hardest part.
Before I start, I don't have a huge voice. Can you hear me back there?
No.
Yes, we can hear you.
A little bit more. Okay. How's that? That better?
Yeah.
Years ago, my husband and I moved to acreage in the wooded hills of the Coast Range. The only hitch was that there wasn't any electricity there, there wasn't any running water, there wasn't a house. That's commonly called simple living. But actually, it's far more simple to turn on the faucet than it is to carry water. It's simpler to go to the grocery store than to grow and preserve your own food. It's simpler to turn up the thermostat than to chop wood. Yet, in spite of what everyone expected, we felt no deprivation at all. We really felt enriched. So, what was going on? I have come to believe in this, my 9th decade on Earth, that I'm finally recognizing a basic organizing principle of life. So maybe you can teach little dogs new tricks. This principle encompasses ones that are well known: faith, hope, love, the importance of the golden rule. But it took me a very long time to see clearly its universality. So today I want to invite you to come along with me as I review many lessons that I had throughout life, and they are basically unrelated, with a few exceptions, except for that lesson. And perhaps you will be able to put it all together before you're 80. It began when I was on the cusp of pubescence. Does it show? Don't put all of your eggs in one basket, my grandmother counseled. A rather odd bit of advice when you think about it. When I gather eggs, I hold the basket in one hand, and with my right hand, I pick up the hen's gifts, and they are transferred safely and quickly and efficiently. If instead I held a bunch of baskets here, very likely the eggs would come tumbling and splatting to the ground along with those several baskets. However, I hadn't been collecting eggs right then. Grandmother's advice was a koan of sorts, a puzzle for me to figure out. So if the eggs, in this case, were my hopes and dreams, the basket was what I was counting on to deliver those dreams to me. I don't remember what the basket of the moment was. Getting an A in English, perhaps, or a certain teacher, or maybe a job to finance that egg. But behind the words was, the idea was clear: diversify. Don't put all of your hopes in one thing. Still, clear though it was, it'd be many years before I realized how widely that message applied. I was maybe in junior high when I learned about Ireland's mid-19th century potato famine. Potatoes flourished in the Irish climate and stored well too, giving the farmers enough food for the year and even having a little bit to sell. Most of the poor tenant farmers and their families subsisted on potatoes alone. But in 1845, and then again the year after, and the year after that, a fungal disease destroyed the crop, its spores spreading on the wind to infect land far distant from the first outbreak. 1 million people had to leave their country. Another million starved to death. Colder, windier, moister weather than usual had invited the blight, and then the political response was abysmal. But the real culprit was this. The Irish farmers had put all of their eggs in one basket. Nearly all the farmers grew that one crop, potatoes, and to make matters worse, they grew only one genotype of that crop. Diversification could have supplied food for the people and some resistance to the blight. Can't really see it. In college, I learned more about monocultures and their opposites. Functions are interconnected and complex in a diversified system. When there's a wide variety of insects, predator insects can control the insect pests. In a dynamic soil ecosystem, microbes contribute fertility, and the soil requires less water. Numerous plant types ensure that only some succumb to extreme weather, and that fewer are susceptible when a disease blows in. Unfortunately, such diversity is difficult for mechanized industrial agriculture. Machine planting, weeding, and harvesting are far easier when a single crop is planted in parallel rows. Okay, let's see.
Let's do it.
So that's what corporate farmers do. Of course, once that decision is made, nature's rules toward a healthy, balanced system are gone and must be provided by the farmer in the form of fertilizer, herbicide, pesticide, and irrigation. All of those inputs bring the next layer of problems, such as chemicals leaching into distant waterways and killing aquatic animals, soil lost to erosion, and crops lost to weather, insects, or disease. Damage multiplies in those distant ecosystems for the same basic reason. The trespassing chemicals or eroded earth knock out components of the affected system, rendering it less diverse and therefore less stable. Someone compared the ecosystem to an orchestra. If an invading chemical knocked out the entire string section, the resulting music would be lacking and just might send the audience running for the exits. Usually we don't think of agriculture as a cause of pollution, but in fact, it can be a serious one. For example, farms along the Mississippi are currently projected to cause a 6,000 square mile dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico, strangling fish and other wildlife. Many consider monocropping more efficient than complex system-based farming. But that depends on how you define efficiency. If the egg, the goal of product or profit, is sufficiently narrow, if you focus on the moment and don't mind that the future health of the soil ecosystem is sacrificed for that narrow goal, and if you accept that your productivity exports costs that must be paid by others, then perhaps in a good year, monocropping is more efficient. In a bad year, it's the Irish potato famine. Long-term health of and income from the soil and neighboring systems requires an interweaving of a great complexity of baskets. Out of college and thinking about starting a family, I was counseled to diversify investments, not that I had anything to invest. But diversifying made sense. Financial markets go up and down as surely as the weather. You certainly wouldn't want all your monetary eggs in one basket. That basket could easily disintegrate. More importantly than that, though, I rejoiced that this man I married was not even remotely related to me. There are civil and religious prohibitions against interbreeding for good reasons. Stories of the Middle Ages royalty marrying close relatives demonstrate the serious potential for health and developmental problems. Financial diversification is important. Genetic diversification is crucial. A multiplicity of baskets makes the best eggs. As our kids grew and became increasingly independent, I went to PTA meetings, then business meetings, nonprofit work sessions, where the best ideas and projects came from brainstorming. People from different backgrounds were encouraged to share any ideas that popped into their heads on the subject at hand. And they were promised that there'd be no judgmental reaction from the group. Ideas would fly. Nearly always, one inspired another until something truly creative and effective evolved from the diverse points of view. By now, more wrinkles assault my reflection in the mirror. The kids completed their education, had families of their own, and I'm finding myself drawn to articles with titles like Exercises for the Aging Brain. The kicker is that these articles don't just prescribe mental stimulation, reading, crossword puzzles, active discussions. They stress the importance of learning new things. Why? Because you want your brain to form new synapses. More and different is better. Along with worrying about my brain, one of the gifts of my dotage has been digestive problems. I remembered some limerick lines. His rumblings abdominal were simply abominable, making me think that my problem was not unique to me. So what do you think I discovered? It seems that our digestion is largely controlled by our gut microbiome. Those trillions of bacteria and other microorganisms that live in our bodies. Depending on what we eat and what medicines we ingest, our microbiome either flourishes in complexity and health or it's depleted.